Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. We have an amazing guest speaker on the Creative Collective podcast, Sarah Weaver. Sarah is an amazing human being. I got to meet her in San Diego at the end of 2022 at BPCon and at an after party, actually, that we were invited to. And she was actually doing this huge launch of 30 Day Stay that she co-authored. And it's been a huge success. It was published by Bigger Pockets. And we got to hang out a little bit, kind of got to know each other, then ran into Sarah again at BPCon in Orlando just recently. And that was super cool. Got to hang out again out by the pool. And so, yeah, we wanted to have Sarah on. She is living an amazing life, guys. She teaches people how to invest in midterm rentals. And she travels the entire world doing that. And she does like this training course and stuff. Super cool. Super happy to have you, Sarah. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. You guys keep the questions coming in the chat throughout our time. Nothing is off the table when it comes to real estate. I love being really transparent about money. I started my post-college experience teaching English in South Korea. So I taught English for a year, and it made me really rude about money because me and all my friends made exactly the same amount every month because that's just what it was across the board. And so everything we did, we're like, how much did that cost? How much did that bottle of soju cost? Oh, we could get it cheaper at the 7-Eleven. And so I brought those rude money habits back with me to the US. And so I started asking my friends, well, like, how much money do you make? Is your company contributing to their 401k? Are you investing? And so feel free to be really rude about money today. I want you guys to walk away with answers, not more questions. So definitely feel free.
I love it. I love that. Cool. Well, let's start off. Where are you from, Sarah? And where are you from and what did you do before real estate? Let's start there.
Yeah. So I grew up in Kansas City, Overland Park, Kansas, to be specific, and went to the University of Kansas, Rock Chalk. But I did not enjoy that. I was from Kansas. I couldn't wait to get out of Kansas. I thought I was supposed to be at some liberal arts college in California. I was originally born in California, and I just was really ready to get away. And so right after college, I got an internship in Munich, Germany, working for a travel company at Oktoberfest. For some context, I was like top of my class. If I joined a club, I was the president of it. I would like go to the chancellor's house. Not that I was like a brown noser, but I just thought if I was going to be involved, I wanted to be the boss. And so that was kind of the experience that I had in college. And then I went to Munich, Germany, and well, it was a lot of partying. And I was like, I should have been doing this in college, but I didn't. And so this is kind of fun. But it also was one of those moments like, I don't think that I can make a career out of this. So I put my networking hat on. I networked with a Sports Illustrated photographer on Facebook, and I got a job at Sports Illustrated. So moved to Jacksonville, Florida. I have a journalism degree. I have a degree in broadcast journalism and international studies. I wanted to be an international journalist. And so, yeah, so I worked for SI. I worked for a social media company that's like a international brand. So that was really fun. And then it wasn't. I was like, I really, really want to live abroad. That was why I took that job in Munich, Germany. But frankly, they were like doing Coke on the breakfast table. And I was like, that. So that wasn't for me. And I did not partake then. And
For the record.
realized I really wanted to live abroad. And so I taught English in South Korea, as I told you guys. So for anyone that is feeling like they don't know what to do with their life, teaching English abroad is an amazing experience. If you were born in an English speaking country and you have a college degree, you qualify. And it was just awesome. It was great money. It wasn't necessarily a high income, but you had little to no expenses. And so it set me up financially really, really well. I paid off all my student loans in 12 months.
Wow.
And yeah. And I got
impressive.
really good at being frugal. I was already probably really good at being frugal. And it was just fun. But I fell in love and I followed love to Texas. And like a bad country song, I lost the man, the car broke down, lost the dog. The dog didn't die. The dog lives in Colorado with the ex-boyfriend. Um, but that is when I came into real estate. And so I'm so grateful for that experience. One, to like give a chance on love. But also I got introduced to a bunch of real estate people and became a real estate agent. Give me a 1 in the chat if you are also a real estate agent, even if it's not like your full-time gig, if you're licensed. All right, sweet. So we have Jason, Ari, Patricia. So yes, so I was a real estate agent. I joke that I was a real estate agent for about 5 minutes. I think I knew and everyone knew I wasn't going to live. This was in Austin, Texas. I knew that I wasn't going to live and die in Austin. And so I don't know why I built a commission-based sales business. But I didn't know that. I know now.
Our
And
very own Juan Padilla lives in Austin, Texas, ladies and
there
gentlemen.
you go. Hi, Juan.
Yeah, and I have a question. Why not Austin, Texas?
Yeah, great question, Juan. And actually it's funny, I think I want to move back to Austin. No, I just knew that I wanted to live remotely, work remotely, be remote, be nomadic. And so fast forward, that's exactly what I do today. I'm fully nomadic. It's been 4 years of being on the road. I did start with a job. So like a lot of you with COVID, I'm sure your job maybe went remote. So give me a 2 in the chat if you can work remotely. So I started working remotely in 2015. So a long time ago. So yeah, I've been remote for 8 years. And then I went fully nomadic 4 years ago. I, sold my house. No, I actually bought a house, put roommates in it, and then I moved to Europe. And I thought I'd be back by Christmas. And that was 4 years ago. I'm still traveling full time.
Wow, incredible.
Phew,
That
was
is
I told
crazy.
that story. So there you go. There's my resume.
Now, see, we're gonna actually share the beginning of this podcast with our other special guests because you killed it. You did a great job. Thank you. Yeah, it's awesome when there's good flow happening. I love your story. That's so cool. Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, it is a really cool story, but it's also like a ridiculous resume. Like if anyone saw my resume, they're like, you've never really had like a real job. Like, and so I definitely think that anyone can be successful in real estate investing. I am a very good communicator, a great negotiator. I love talking to people. I don't think anyone's a stranger. So all of those soft skills were really transferable. But definitely I want everyone on here to know that, you could be an incredibly successful real estate investor. Even if you're not making very much money. I bought my very first rental property when I was making $47,000.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, and just so you know, a lot of our viewers here are in Pace Morby's, sub 2 and Gator community. So most of us are plugged in and following the GOAT. So yeah, I wanted to just dig in. Let's talk about how you landed on Midterm Rental as your strategy, and how are you tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, but before you get into that, let's talk about how you landed on Midterm.
Absolutely. So I knew that I wanted to own a furnished rental because I wanted somewhere that I could drop in and stay there if I needed to or wanted to, especially being homeless. And then I liked the increased rent. So short-term rental oftentimes can make 2 to 3 times long-term rent. And so when it's hard to make a property cash flow like today with, high interest rates, it's really nice to furnish the place and see more rental income come in. But let me know in the chat, give me a 3 in the chat if you think short-term rentals are too much work. Because that was one of my concerns. I was like, is it worth more income because I think it's more work? Yeah, I love that. 3, but never tried. So I was really hesitant about short-term rentals because I was like, man, I love being off grid. Like this summer, I hiked Kilimanjaro. I did not have cell phone service for 9 days. How on earth could I do that if I had an Airbnb? If I was self-managing, I should say, I self-manage all 19 of my rentals. And I just thought, man, this whole like 2-day, 3-day check-in is really annoying. Because while the guest isn't trying to be an asshole, they like don't know how to use the toaster or the Keurig or the lock. And even though now everything's automated, I have Hospitable, which is amazing. Cannot recommend them enough. Use my referral link. No, but really, Hospitable is amazing.
Nice.
It communicates with my cleaner. So when my guest extends, which they often do now, my cleaner's automatically notified. So I don't have to text the cleaner, making sure that she got there. My cleaner's uploading photos into Turno. My VA in the Philippines is, checking Turno. So everything's automated. So I'm not a moron. I'm running everything really automated. But here's the thing. It still takes up mind space. I'm still wondering, no matter how chill I may look on Instagram, like the stressed out version of me is like, but did the cleaner actually go? And the cleaner's there right now. Are they going to text me that something's broken? And then I need to text a handyman because I have another check-in at 3 p.m. And I just didn't like that. That life was not for me. I'm not saying that STRs are not a good investing strategy. It's a fantastic investing strategy, but I didn't like the mind space that it was taking up. And so when I discovered that I could have a guest check in and then they would be silent for like 75 days, I was like, yes, that is what I want.
Love it.
And so that is why I switched to the midterm rental. So I'm actually sitting in my first building that I made an MTR. And this is a 4-plex. And I furnished the unit that I was living in because I house hacked. And then I thought that I was just going to rent it on the weekends and go sleep at grandma's or go to Mexico. And then my very second guest was a guest that wanted to stay for 60 days. And I was like, sweet, I guess I'm going to Guatemala for 60 days. And that's when I realized, I was like, wow, they're paying me $1,875 to not live in Omaha. And then I'm turning around and I'm spending $400 to live in Guatemala. I was like, I figured it out. I was like, let's turn all these units into MTRs. And now I also own the building next door. It brings in $7,500 a month. I'm going to put this in the chat. So the income is $7,500 and the PITI is $2,003. And then
that's amazing.
Yeah. And so that's how I came to love MTRs and then approached Bigger Pockets to say, hey, we need to have a book about MTRs. Like the STR book is awesome and STRs are awesome, but let's talk about MTRs.
Yep. And you actually inspired me to get my first sub 2 deal is a midterm rental over in Bossier City, Louisiana.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah. Out of BPCon, I was like, man, this is an amazing strategy. I need to look into this. And so that is basically our main strategy is co-living and midterm rentals, so.
Yeah. So for those of you that said like you think that it's too stressful, I want to be very clear. MTR is still not passive. Okay. Still not passive. You can hire a management company, but obviously you lose some profit there. And that's still totally worth it. But it still takes up mind space, especially now that I have 10. But if you have 1 or 2, I mean, I've had guests I just had a guest last week, Emily is her name, and she extended. So she's lived in my unit, or she will have lived in my unit for 204 days.
Wow.
Paying $1,875.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And then I own another building. I just want to give you guys some more numbers. So I own another building. The income is $2,700. I think it's actually like $2,780. But it's $1,900 for the MTR and $850 for the long-term tenant that lives in the downstairs unit. Well, my PITI is $887.
Nice.
And not to say, like, I would be stoked if both units were LTRs, bringing in $850. That's $1,600. My PITI is $887. That's great money, but it's really good money when you turn one of the units into an MTR.
Yes, absolutely. So where are you sourcing your leads? Are you still picking up properties, and like, are you just getting on market, off market deals? How are you picking these your deals up?
Yeah, I pick up deals through investor friendly agents. I am
Mhm.
not spending my time, driving for dollars, knocking on doors. I did my
Mhm.
first deal, my very first deal. I was um flew into Kansas City. I was living in Denver, and living in Denver, I had a wedding to go to in Kansas City. So while my friends were pre-gaming, I was driving, knocking on doors saying, "Hi, I want to buy your house. Hi, I want to buy your house." My friends were texting me like, "Where are you?" And I found my first deal. There was a for sale by owner sign in the yard. I was like, man, I wish I'd driven this street first. And I knocked on their door, I got a tour like within half an hour, and went back the next day, quite hungover,
Okay for
and
now.
bought the house. And so
Yeah,
I
that's
had
sick.
done that. Like I had driven for dollars, I had put in the work, and I don't want to do that right now. I run other businesses now, which we'll definitely get into,
Mhm.
and they produce great cash. And so it's not worth my time, I think, to do those things right now. Not to say that I won't in the future.
Yeah.
But I want investor friendly agents who are out there,
Mm.
knocking on
Yeah.
doors. Wholesalers, feel free to send me deals. I have nothing
Mhm.
against wholesalers, but I
Yeah.
found my best deals through investor friendly agents.
Nice. That's awesome. So we would consider that direct to agent, right? DTA. Direct to agent. That's awesome. So let's see. So man, how like that deal, 2,700. So I just actually, I had a question for, have you ever done any room by room rentals? And what's your experience with that versus just renting the whole house out?
Yeah, great question. So it's that very first house that I just talked
Mhm.
about where I found it driving for dollars. I did rent by the room long term. So all the girls in the house were on separate leases. There's something weird about the house. It also might be the Midwest, but I call the house the magic marriage house. Everyone that moved into the house got engaged. Um,
What?
I saw the trend. I one-way ticket to Portugal because I have commitment issues. And so what I would do is I would let the girls break their lease if they wanted, as long as
Mhm.
they found someone else. So you know what that meant is that I could be in Europe or South America and they would do the showings. And so I like created this great solution to like, what do you do for turnovers when you're on the other side of the world, when you're self-managing? And so that very first house I did rent by the room. And then it just got complicated. Two girls wanted to move out, one girl didn't. Then you have to, and so finally I realized, I'd rather just rent the whole house to one person, even if I make a little bit less, because it was less logistics, less, you don't have a people problem. And
Mhm.
so the reason I tell that story, even though those are long term, is I don't want to deal with a people problem. And so I don't do rent by the room for MTRs. For me, my MTRs are all 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom, because I know my avatar is a travel medical professional or someone who's here because their job transferred them here and they're going to stay here before they stay at a house. 2 of my 7 tenants right now are family members. They're family members in the hospital. So they are living in my unit while they're visiting that family member. So I become the solution to those types of challenges because
Mhm.
of my unit size. If you want to MTR a bigger house, a 3 bedroom, a 4 bedroom, a 5 bedroom, go the insurance route. The insurance route means that a family can no longer live in their house because of flood, fire, tree
Mhm.
fell on it, whatever it might be, man-made or natural disaster. The insurance companies pay great money. And
That's
so
what we got lucky. That's what we ended up stumbling on that. My wife Jessie put an ad on Zillow. She's like, "Let me just try this before we furnish it, before we get the washer and dryer." They said, "Oh, don't worry about any of that." And we got $200 more a month than we were expecting.
And
So,
I'm
yeah.
so glad you mentioned that, because
Yeah.
yes, you can MTR unfurnished houses, because
Mhm.
insurance claims will rent your unfurnished house and they'll get the furniture, because that's where they make some margin as well at like brokering the deal. And so that is what I would do if I ever MTR that very first house. That's the only single family that I own. That's what I would do. Or if I look to pick up anything this year, I'm going to pick up another single family and go the insurance route.
Yeah, it's a great way to go. That's exactly what happened. Our very first tenant, 8 to 10 month stay, they're actually looking to extend to renegotiate our contract for another 2 to 4 months because no work has been started yet. It's been 4 months already.
I know, like
So
when they're like, "Oh, our entire house flooded. We need to live in your house for 3 months." I'm like, "No, you don't. You need
yeah,
to live in my
right.
house for a year."
Yeah. And like you said, you can negotiate with them because they will pay a lot more than typically what you can even rent it on like a, find it on Furnish Find or rent it on Furnish Finders or anything like that.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And so my MTRs, I'm sitting here in Omaha. I have 8 units in Omaha. They're all MTRs. And then I own 8 units in Des Moines, and 2 of those are MTRs.
Nice.
And then I own property in Kansas City, but they are long-term rentals.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about that. That's a good segue. What are good areas? Where should people be focusing or looking for good opportunities for midterm rentals?
Right now, wherever you can find deals. I think
Mhm.
that any property type can be an MTR as long as it's in a safe neighborhood. So absolutely no D class, no way, Jose, never going to be an MTR. And even some C class neighborhoods, it's just not a good idea. I could, make a unit adorable, but if it's in a bad neighborhood and the guest is coming from out of town, they don't know the area, they pull up and they're like, really, I'm not going to live here. That's just asking for headache. But as far as rural cities, suburbs, first tier cities, second tier cities, I think a lot of places can be an MTR. So I know it's not super helpful for you guys to like narrow down. And so I would focus on other metrics like, is there population growth? Is there job growth? Is there home value increases? What's the job market like? Because if you ever wanted to turn it from an MTR to an LTR, I want it to be a kick-ass rental in my portfolio. So I look at those types of metrics, and then I look for an investor-friendly agent that's actually going to send me deals.
Mhm. That
Send me
makes
deals.
sense. Juan, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, so I got a question, Sarah. My wife and I are super hosts. We've been super hosts since like 2017. So, we obviously believe in the STR model, right? But we have seen a drastic decline in bookings, right? And we understand, of course, inundated and all of those things. So one of the things that I've been talking to my wife about is MTR, right? Why don't we switch this Airbnb room? We actually have a room that's been kind of made into like what we call the Texas casita. And so what we want to do is switch that over to MTR. So what platforms are you using? Because the only platform we use is Airbnb.
Yep.
So what are the platforms you're using to go out and, obviously market to your MTR guests?
Yeah, great question. First of all, congratulations on your STRs. Are they mostly in Austin?
Well, the only one I do have, yes, is in Austin.
Incredible. What a great market to not only own real estate, but furnish rentals. So I list my MTRs on Airbnb and Furnished Finder. And in any given time of the year, I haven't found a rhyme or reason to it. 1 month, it'll be, well, really like 1 quarter, because, my guests stay for 3 to 6 months, but 1 quarter, it'll be 70% Airbnb guests and only 30% furnished came from Furnish Finder. And then the next quarter, it will be the other way around. And so I can't say for certain which one is better. But what I can say is that you have to be on both. It keeps me full. I have really good occupancy rates. I was at 97% for all of 2022, and I haven't tracked the last quarter. But for the first, 2 quarters of this year, I'm at 95% occupancy. And so, I don't like math, you guys, but I love data. And so I hire people who can like understand these numbers because I want to know, like, am I smart? Like, am I making money? And so I'm tracking all of this.
Well, that's great. So in Airbnb, you just put it on for a minimum of 30-day stay.
Exactly. And I play around with it. I'm in an area where I can do short term. It sounds like you might be as well. And so I'll play around with it. Maybe if I'm getting close to a vacancy. So for example, I have a unit coming vacant next Thursday. I went ahead and I was like, I haven't found a guest yet. So I'm just going to play around with the few days right after the booking, and I'll allow a 2-night stay. I know that my cleaner's available. I know that it'll work out. And I kind of play around with those numbers. But what is great is I could be so nervous. You know, I said that like not chill part of myself. I could be freaking out like, oh my God, I have a vacancy. What the heck? I'm gonna have to tell people that, you know, the world's doomed. And then the very next day I could get an 82-day booking. So people are booking like that long of stay that last minute. I mean, even I am when I go somewhere, like when I'm going to South America, I haven't booked anything yet, but I'll probably book somewhere for 25 days.
Awesome. Juan, did you want to hop? Juan's part of the show here, and so is Justin. Did you have anything else, Juan, that you wanted to add? No? All right.
Excellent. We had a really good question in the chat that I wanted to touch on. They're asking on how I acquired the properties financially. And so I'm going to go through this really fast. Let me know if you guys need me to slow down.
Yeah.
But I own 19 units. It's only 8 properties. And the first 3, house hack. I had the ability to work remotely, so I was happy to move anywhere and travel a lot. So I house hack. Then I did my first BRRRR and actually BRRR'd 2 properties next door to each other. I used hard money for the acquisition and I used private money for the down payment. And so I posted on Instagram, and thankfully by then I had been posting quite a bit about travel. And someone in the real estate industry said, "You look like you travel more than you work." And I was like, well, I kind of do. But the reality is that I needed to post about real estate. And that was what he was saying, like, you need to tell people you're doing both. So I made a conscious effort to talk about real estate. And this was back in the day when I had 1,100 followers. And so I was posting about real estate, and that's how I got my private lender. So I used hard money, private money. I opened Chase, Freedom, or Inc. or Business, Sapphire cards, would put all the renovation on that credit card. I had the money. I would pay off the credit card every Friday, and then I'd get 100,000 to 150,000 miles. So I'm up to like 1.6 million miles just through credit cards. Like, I know I travel a lot, but it's really hard to like acquire points through actual miles traveled. But I open a credit card all the time, you know, and I get these points. So you guys, please credit card hack. It's amazing. So that renovation, I did pay for the reno myself. And then thankfully it appraised high enough that I paid myself back almost fully. I think I left 11,000 in the deal, but paid off my private lender plus fees, paid off my hard money lender plus fees. So bought those 2. And then my last 3 deals, partner. So I bring in partners, they bring the down payment and all the renovation. I bring $0. And we split equity 50-50, and we split cash flow 50-50.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have one of those partners in the chat who has her hand raised right now. Patricia, go ahead.
And Lance, I would give you my money and do it all over again, because you got
I
us such
love
a
it.
So some of my questions have already been answered. But with the short-term rentals, I also did recently purchase a property here in South Florida where I live. And our initial or our plan really is to do student housing. So we would be doing the co-living situation. But obviously we didn't consider this. And if you're going to be doing this for students, you need to consider the school year when it starts. So in the meantime, we've been doing the short-term rentals with Airbnb. But you know, the midterm rentals are also quite interesting, obviously, because it does require a lot less time and effort. Like, it's really consuming the time for me, you know, that I have to dedicate to Airbnb. But with the short-term rentals, do you also cover the utilities, or would the tenant cover the utilities?
Yeah, with my MTRs and STR, I cover all utilities. All utilities are included, especially because a lot of them book through Airbnb. So when they're booking through Airbnb, utilities are included. One thing that came to mind with your situation is you could rent to students, but just for the school year. So you could expect them to move out in the summer, and you could either MTR for the summer to a different guest, or you could switch to STR I would think that that would be pretty good seasonality for you. And then you're getting more people in the house. Or summer, maybe it's too hot there and people aren't coming. And so you'd actually want the student to rent through the summer. But I think that it's really important to like think creatively about, okay, I have this asset. What is the, not only the most money, but what's the most convenient for me as well? And so sometimes I choose to MTR even during like the busy months, which yes, people do come to Omaha, Nebraska, you guys. And they come for the College World Series as well as the Berkshire Hathaway shareholder event in the spring. And so I can make more money if I happen to get a nurse or an MTR guest out in time to switch it back to STR. And then I do that hybrid model. And so I think that's something to consider.
Yeah. Even with like the sharing of the rooms sort of situation.
Yeah, I think that you're going to find that a student may not be able to go home for the summer.
Yeah.
And so they may want to rent year round, whereas another student may not.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's pretty cool.
But always remember that like you hold the power in that situation. I find that a lot of investors get scarcity mindset and they're like, oh, like I have to get this rented, so I have to just give them whatever they want. We can negotiate. And so figure out a win-win for both of you guys.
Awesome. And then my other question was, where are you guys, Lance? I know that Jesse was the one that got that insurance claim lead, and you guys told me about that before, and I forgot to ask, where was it that you guys, who do you talk to, or where do you go to see if you can get some of those leads, those insurance claim leads?
Yeah, great question. So Lance posted his property on Zillow, and I forgot to mention, I too have my posted on Zillow. No one's reached out to me through Zillow, so I don't talk about that, but I do list on Zillow. So really list your property all the same places that you would for MTRs. In addition to Airbnb, Furnish Finder, and Zillow, you also should reach out to the temporary housing companies themselves. So some examples of those would be like ALE Solutions, CRS, Corporate Housing by Owner. There's a bunch of other acronyms that if I try to memorize them, I'll butcher them. So the best thing to do is use our best friend, Chat GPT, and ask, what are all of the temporary housing solutions in Tampa, in Orlando, in Cincinnati, Ohio, and then reach out to all of them. And I have had so many investors come to me and say like, they never got back to me. And I'm like, okay, how many times did you follow up with them? And so be relentless in your follow-up.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great tip.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Patricia. Great questions, as usual. She's a thinker. Awesome. Yeah, I wanted to just kind of, before we take any more questions, I'd like you to, share with us what you're doing now, the traveling and the trainings, and let's talk about that for a little while.
Yeah, my life looks so different than it did 5 years ago. So I am doing a lot of speaking. I'm traveling really every month, somewhere new to speak. So I actually spoke this week at the Omaha RIA. And it was awesome. It was like almost 140 people. So it was super fun. So I'm doing a lot of speaking. I wrote a book for Bigger Pockets, a 30-day stay. If you guys use Sarah, you'll get 10% off. So I'll make sure you guys get that info. And then in addition to speaking and traveling, I also serve investors. And so I serve investors in 3 different ways. The first is through my coaching program called the Mentorship Program. We're at about 50 students. I think we have 57 students right now. And more or less, we meet every Tuesday. And what I think is really unique about the Mentorship Program is they really do get full access to me. And so I'm teaching a lot of the times on Tuesdays. Every once in a while, I'll bring in a speaker, but otherwise I'm actually going through a curriculum that I developed to not only acquire property, but also have a portfolio that doesn't run your life. And so that's what the Mentorship Program is about. Because what I find is that, okay, it's cool to acquire a property, but then you have a set of 30 different questions once you acquire it. And then after you have your first MTR guest, you have another 20 questions. And then you get your first crazy guest. And then you're like, oh my God, now I need more help. So that's why the Mentorship Program is a year-long program. The other way that I serve investors is through a company called Invested Adventures. And so that's probably my favorite company to talk about because I take real estate investors on epic adventures. So you guys let me know in the chat, what would be an epic adventure that you would like to go on? And I challenge you to like think really big, like what's epic. And so I'll give you guys some time to fill that in, and I'll tell you a quick story while you guys are doing that. So what I love about the invested adventures is we of course are like doing bucket list experiences that are a tax write-off because it's all a business trip. But what I really love is what happens on these trips. And so I'm sure you guys find this with this community as well as anyone that's in any other communities. You mentioned Pace Morby's community. I think that when you surround yourself with people that want to live bigger, you are challenged to live bigger. And then when you take yourself out of your day-to-day, out of your routine, and for a lot of people out of their comfort zone, I find that you grow even more. And so I have people come on the trip who finally are like, okay, I haven't really realized how miserable I am in my job. And then they go home and they actually quit their job. I've had someone who wasn't happy in their home life and, got the courage to like have that fierce conversation of like, hey, I think we need to fix this. And now, 6 months later, not only are they both happier, but their kids are happier and healthier. And so like what we're doing is really fun. And I'll tell you some of the like sick trips that we go on, but I want everyone to like really hear me when I say that like these trips could change your life if you let. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So
All
in
right,
the
Justin,
chat, yeah, let's see what we have here in the chat. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. Justin, you can only submit one. Sorry. No.
No, keep them coming. So we have traveling Europe. Let's go to Tuscany. Okay. Parli italiano? Io anch'io. And then skiing in Alaska, hiking a volcano in Guatemala, Iceland, sailing in Croatia, Japan. Ooh, a trip to Patagonia. All right. So you guys, here's what we did this year, and I'll tell you what we're going to do next year. So this year, we did hike the W Trek in Patagonia, Chile, not once, but twice. So I took 2 groups down there. I did not get to go because I broke every bone in my left arm. In Guatemala, I don't know who was that said hiking it. Patrick says hiking a volcano in Guatemala. I want to hike Asatonengo. That was my plan that weekend, but I broke every bone in my arm. So I did not hike Asatonengo in Guatemala. And I also didn't hike in Patagonia. So the first trip of 2024, we're going to Patagonia. And I have 2 spots open. So who was that? Justin, if you'd like to come, I have 2 spots available. We will be doing the W Trek in Patagonia. This year, we also went on African safari. And has anyone been on a safari? Give me an S in the chat if you've been on safari. So I want to start by saying I am not a monster. I do like animals. And I'm so glad that you guys love your dog, but I don't love your dog. Like animals is not like my number one thing. I obviously love animals, right? I went on safari thinking, oh yeah, it's going to be really fun. Safari was magic. Like when you are that close to a lion that just killed a buffalo and now is calling out to the mama lion, and the mama lion and the baby lions are walking by your car to go eat this buffalo. It is,
wow.
It's unbelievable. What I loved about this trip is that we had 29 to 62 was the age range of our group. And we all turned into 13-year-old boys. Like we all were so excited. And like, it was that was probably one of the best trips I've ever been on, but definitely the best trip I've ever led. And so that was incredible. So we will be doing that again this summer because it was freaking awesome.
Sounds amazing.
And what was so awesome was like the animals, so cool. The culture was so cool, but the conversation, because it's a lot of time in a car. So even if you don't come on safari with me, like don't go on safari with like just your significant other, even if you love them a lot, because it is like so much time just sitting around. So it's definitely a friend trip. Like you definitely want to go with a group of friends. So either a group of couples or a group of friends. And so it was so much time in the car, and we had a tax expert, someone who does taxes for real estate investors. So we all basically got private coaching on taxes and tax strategy for like an hour in the car. Someone else was an expert in social media. Someone else was an expert in construction, flipping. And so you got to ask all of those questions that on a call like this, you're maybe a little bit embarrassed. Like, how the hell do you actually do real estate development? Because like, I don't really even know the first step. But when you're sitting in a car next to someone who last night you saw get really drunk and you're like, they're kind of an idiot and they somehow do like multi-million-dollar projects, I now no longer feel embarrassed to ask a bunch of questions. And so it really humanizes real estate, and it's just pretty magical. So as you can tell,
It
I
sounds
really
amazing. Like with my wife and I, though, we would go together, but we separate when we network. You know what I mean? She could like hang out, I'll hang out. So we got it pretty figured out. But I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. That sounds amazing. So the lions have all the blood. They're just fresh, just blood all over their
blood
faces.
everywhere, blood everywhere.
Sweet.
And you're like, I don't know how I feel, but this is awesome. Like it was a really like, it was incredible. It made you feel really, really small.
Carnal.
Like, and it also made your problems feel really, really small. Cause I know that that's, I
Mm.
think the best part about getting away is you're like, oh, it doesn't really matter that the fridge is leaking at that rental. Like that is a simple problem.
Right.
Like money can fix that.
That's cool.
What are some other trips we did? Oh, someone said Italy. I took 12 real estate investors to Puglia, Italy, and we did nothing but eat and drink. That is like really all we did. And of course, at the dinner table, we talked about real estate, but man, that's the most food we've ever eaten on any of my trips. I do a couple
That's
trips to
awesome.
Guatemala every year because I love Guatemala, even though it broke me. Where else did we go this year? Man, I love when I travel so much that I can't remember. So next year, 2024, we are going to my 7th continent. Any guesses?
Antarctica.
Antarctica.
Nice.
Yeah,
Ooh.
I'm so excited. So we're going to
It's a bucket list.
Antarctica. I have one spot available, ideally a guy, because I have a guy that needs a roommate. But anyone can come. So if anyone would like to come to Antarctica, I do have one spot available. It is going to be unbelievable.
That's a
Unbelievable.
bucket list item for sure.
I mean, the animals, again, like now that I know, it turns out I love animals. I'm so excited to see the
That's so
whales.
funny.
Like so excited to see the whales. Yeah, I'm very excited. And I'm like humbly really excited to say I've been to all 7 continents. So that's really exciting.
Well, it sounds like you do 2 different styles of trips, type A and type B fun. Type A is very like the trips to Italy. They're easy. They're, you're going to a safe and secure country. Type B is like, it can be a little hairy. It's a little scary. There's, like lions around you and so on. When you do these type B treks, how I mean, I love to travel and I'm really good at traveling myself or with my family, but to think about having 10, 15 people and I'm curating this whole experience, do you get kept up at night from anxiety leading up to these trips? Like what could go wrong? Are you hiring local guides? Like what's the mindset in that situation?
Oh, what a great question. Man, thank you so much for asking this. So I think that this is a really good topic. So I will answer your question, but I think it's such a good topic as a real estate investor. You control your mindset. And so like Sarah 3 years ago did cry over, a leaky fridge because, oh my God, it's going to cost $400. Like, where's that money coming from? Whereas today, one, yes, it helps that there is money in the bank, of course, but it's all mindset. Like that is not a life or death situation. And so it's the same thing with the the before trip thoughts is anything could happen and it's all going to be okay. Like I would be devastated if a war broke out and we could no longer go on the trip. And that's a fixable problem, not the war. I'm not like downplaying war by any means or a natural disaster, but that's a fixable problem. Money can be refunded. Insurance will be called. Trips can be rescheduled. So there's not much anxiety leading up to the trip, but I cannot explain the mental and physical fatigue that I feel when I'm on the trip. And not only am I worried about logistics while I'm on the trip because I want it to go really well, but I am a complete empath. And for anyone that thinks that that's woo woo, I don't care. Like, I really do feel your feelings.
Yeah.
And so when you're telling me that you're in a marriage that you no longer want to be in, or you have a boss that verbally abuses you, I feel every ounce of your pain. And I'm also thinking, I can't interrupt you because we're like trying not to cry, but also dinner is like about to be delivered and I need to go answer the door in 5 minutes. So what I found is that I have to have someone on the trip to help with logistics.
Yeah.
And so, because I can't be both, and for me to be in my zone of genius, I need to be that person that is listening to every word that you're saying and every word that you're not saying, because that's how I'm going to provide the most value. And so I had the most fun on Safari because I found a tour operator who knew exactly the level of trip I wanted to bring to my clients and like really exceeded my expectations. And so that's the type of people I want to work with. And so one of the trips I did not mention, because I think I'm still like reeling from the experience. I hiked Kilimanjaro this summer. That was what we did after Safari. And for those of you that don't know, it's almost 20,000 feet. It's 19,600 feet. And it's 6 days up and 2 days down.
Dang.
Yeah. And I'm wildly confident and also very, very self-aware. I am a plus size person that's pretty out of shape. And there was no one on that mountain that looked like me. And I summited, and it was so incredible. Like doing something so challenging, also with other real estate investors, was probably like one of the greatest things I've ever done.
Nice. Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. And to give some more like context, in case you want to come, by day 5, I was coughing blood. By day 6, I was vomiting. And I
Whoa.
was like putting one foot in front of the other. I was
David
like,
Goggins over here.
yeah, yeah. I was like,
Wow.
let's effing go.
Beast mode. I love it. Goggins.
I accidentally misquoted Goggins once on a podcast involving his, what does he say? Be hard.
Yeah.
I misquoted it once on a podcast, and still to this day, it's one of the funniest things I've ever done on a podcast. Like, the host was in tears. I misquoted. So you can use your imagination. Yeah, it was quite funny. So yes, very
That
much.
is so cool.
So if anyone would like to hike Kilimanjaro, I will be running that trip again this year.
You know,
I may wave you goodbye, and then go to Zanzibar and lay on the beach and think about
after
you.
your testimony here, I don't know how anyone can turn it down. I mean, guys,
Where can people find information about that?
Yeah, the best place to find it is on my website. I will put the URL in the chat, but sarahdweaver.com, specifically sarahdweaver.com/trips, TRIPS. And yeah, I really hope that people, I hope that people say yes. They don't have to say yes to my trips, even though I do think that they're amazing and they're truly an elevated experience. And yes, they're what I like to call it type 1, like type 2 fun. Like Kilimanjaro was not fun every day, but now like knowing that I did that is amazing. And then at BPCon, Lance, when I saw you, I was with people that I hiked with. And so like now I have this bond with those clients, really unlike a bond I have with any of my other clients.
Right. Yeah.
Like we saw each other cry and had to like talk about bowel movements and vomiting and, so.
Yeah. It's like we called that back in my days of running the street when I was a youngster. Those are partners in crime, is what we'd call that. You've gone through a traumatic experience together, and that, forms a special bond. It just does.
It really, really does. So, but then there's also, if you're like, oh my God, Sarah, I would never hike ever in my life. We also go to Italy and just drink wine. So if that's a little bit more your speed, we really
sign me up for that one. No.
Yeah, we have a trip for everyone.
No, that sounds amazing. You have such a cool life. My gosh, man. I'm so glad we were able to get you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I think what I want people to take away with this is I just kept seeing challenges in the industry and then figuring out a way like to make a solution. And so I saw that a lot of introverts. I'd say introverts, like put a 1 in the chat, but you're so introverted, you might not do it. But what I found is that there's so many introverts that don't thrive at conferences, that they're like, man, my cup is so empty after a conference because it is a lot. Like it's a lot to network like that. And so what I love about my trips is, even though I'm an extreme extrovert, I really cater to introverts, because I know what it's like to feel like you're not good enough, or feel like the question that you're about to ask is silly, or you wish that you had more units, or you wish that you had a different life. And I think that can be really intimidating at conferences. And so I saw the need for a smaller, more intimate experience in person. Zoom is incredible, and I hope that you guys are getting a lot of value out of this. However, in person, there's nothing like it.
Agreed. Justin, did you have something else, buddy, that you wanted to add?
Well, I always like to ask, we always are looking towards the future and goals. And so what's next for you? Like, are you planning to scale any of your businesses? Are you moving away from anything? Are you moving towards something else? What do you got going on?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. I do own one other company called Aria Design Services. That's ARY Design Services. And we help investors analyze, furnish, and launch their rental. We have done 75, maybe 76 properties just this year in 11 different states. And that, I love that someone put in the chat, Alfred put in the chat, read Who Not How. That book is exactly what led me to run this company so well.
Nice.
I knew that myself and my book would be the best lead generator for the company, but that I should not be the one daily in the operations. And so I found a who, and that company, I want to scale so much. And so does my business partner. That's my only company I have with a business partner. So that's definitely the future. I'm putting a lot of time, money, and effort into Aria. So looking back, I probably should have talked about that for 30 minutes instead of invested ventures, but no, I'm just kidding. I think it was one of those times where I saw a challenge. People were asking me like, how do you do all of this investing remotely? And I was like, well, you could hire a team to furnish it. And then I realized that, wait a minute, you could just hire my team to furnish it. So I'm really excited about that. And then I am focusing a lot on the businesses. The cash is fantastic. But as you can tell, it's not really about the money. The events are not that profitable. I would love for them to be. So if anyone wants to sponsor, but for me, the events are all about the connection. Like usually I end up tearing up, like talking about the changes that happen in my clients. But having cash producing businesses is only great if you're doing something with the cash. And so the two things that I want to do with the cash is I want to buy more real estate. So I plan on investing more in Omaha and Kansas City, both in the same way that I've been doing, small multifamily, more MTRs, but also going bigger. I was a part of a syndication last year, and I'd love to do that again. I'm also lending. I've lent quite a bit this year. Like it's staggering. I don't know if anyone else here has been a lender, but do you ever like stop and think like, I can't believe that I have that much cash that now I lend that amount of money to someone else. So that's just me like being so grateful for what I built. Really enjoy that. And then I'm taking care of my health. Hiking Kilimanjaro like showed me that I can do anything. And so I am eating so clean. It's so annoying how good I feel for anyone else that eats clean. Like, oh my gosh, you're telling me I could have felt like this for the last 7 years. And so I'm down like 25 pounds just by eating clean and barely even exercising.
Awesome.
And so this is just the beginning. So this is really the year of, I want to feel good. So I want to like to have businesses that make me feel good and relationships that make me feel good. But more importantly, like health is like the wealth doesn't mean anything if you don't have your health. So that's my main focus.
That's awesome. Wealth is all encompassing. I'm on the similar journey. So I love that. Thanks for sharing.
You're looking good, by the way. You're looking really good.
I appreciate that. I cut like about 25 pounds, been working out 4 or 5 days a week, eating healthy, clean. It's funny though, like you said, it's amazing just changing your diet does. It's not working out. You don't even have to work out. Changing your diet, completely amazing, the transformations that happen.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure it's really clear from my story, even all the way back in college, like, you know, wanting to be the best. Like, I love tracking stuff. And so I've become obsessed. I like have the Aura ring. I got a Garmin. I have a continuous glucose monitor. I am like, let's see what data I can like.
I love that.
And so, yeah,
That's awesome.
it's all really, really helpful, and it's hard. Like,
Mhm.
so if anyone else is also struggling with that, like being overweight is freaking hard and people don't talk about it, and it's hard, and life is already hard. So I think choose your hard, and I don't want to be overweight anymore.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. I have a little plaque in my kitchen that says choose happy, right? It's a choice every day. You can be miserable, like you just talked about earlier. It's all in the mind. It's all in your own brain. That the book, The Power of Now, changed my life. Talking about Eckhart Tolle, the power of controlling your own mind. You control your mind, you control your destiny, you know. It's amazing to me when you really grasp that concept of the power that you have, that we have. We can make whatever we want happen, basically, with our minds, you know, and speaking things into existence. I'm glad you touched on that. Let's see, Justin, did you have anything else? I'm just going to open it up for questions,
No, I think we
guys.
should open it for questions.
Thank you, man. You're so good, dude. I mean, great questions, brother. Appreciate you, man. Justin is also a part of the show here. Justin is he's been kicking out some amazing email reminders lately. Thanks for doing that, brother. Appreciate you, man.
I'm here for you, Lance.
I know you are, man. You're so good.
Looks like Patricia has a question. Go ahead, Patricia.
So I kind of I know we're like at the top of the hour here, but I wanted to know more about your company Aria, and how you founded it and how you've been growing it, because I think that's super interesting. One of the things that I really, really enjoy, because I've also done fix and flips, and you know, and I've done like a lot of decorations. I've helped a lot of clients with decorations, and I really or decorating their property. And I really enjoy doing that kind of stuff. And I'm like, wow, that's a heck of a business right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing about any business, so this is for anyone in the audience that's like, oh man, I would love to have another source of income, is I think people think that a business is a logo and a website and an LLC. And no, a business is anyone willing to pay you to solve their problem. And so my first 3 Aria clients was like completely out of my ass. And someone was like, man, I'm just like not very good at decorating. And I was like, oh, my company can do that. Company had no name. Company was like my mom, because she's really good at decorating. And I'm also really good at decorating, but I have no time because I'm doing all these other things. And then it was reading Who Not How and being like, okay, I love my mother, but she's definitely not the who. And so who is the who? And it was a girl that I met backpacking in Bali. She like has a real ass job. She's in fashion, very, very high up at a very large company in New York City. And I was like, hey, want to work 80 hours a week? And she said, yeah, that sounds awesome. And so it was slow. It was really slow at the beginning. And so I think just focus on getting 1 or 2 clients. Like what I love is when I realized that I only needed 5 people to pay me $1,000 and I'd feel like really comfortable. I was like, okay, well, guess what? My monthly coaching is $1,000. Who wants to work with me? And so I think you just have to simplify it. And sometimes you start out and you're working for not very much. Like, you know, my very first coaching call, I think was $87. And I was stoked. I was so excited about that, until I talked to my peers and they were like, don't discount yourself. And so, but you have to start somewhere and then ask everyone for testimonials. So anytime something amazing happens, this is what I do. And in real estate agents, I saw you in the chat, you have to do this. So anytime something good happens, no matter like if it's like right in the moment or we're having beers, celebrating the moment, I say, hey, Patricia, I want you to remember how you feel right now when I ask you for a testimonial. Because that does two things. That prepares you that I will be asking you for a testimonial, so that when that testimonial comes, hopefully, one, you do actually remember that emotion, but you also don't get the ick. You're like, yeah, she told me she was going to ask me for a testimonial, and she did such a good job. So of course I'm going to give it to her. And so real estate agents, like in the transaction, your client is going to hate you at some point, whether it's your fault or not. So make sure, like, anytime something good happens, use that line. Like, I want you to remember how you feel right now when I ask you for a testimonial.
I like that.
Yeah.
Great advice. I love how transparent you are. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Because I think a lot of people think that, like, everybody else has something that you don't.
Mhm.
And I'll admit, like, I'm incredibly driven and incredibly brave, but there's definitely, most of you are smarter than I am, or have some other skill that people would pay for. And so you have to value yourself.
100%. Is that it, Patricia? Anything else?
Good. I'm good. This very, very good Zoom, you guys. Every week you're doing better and better and better. You're just giving us more and more value.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Sarah, I'll be hitting you up for a testimonial after this, by the way. Sweet. Anyone else, guys? Come on. I know you've got questions. Sarah's got such an amazing attitude and a lifestyle. I love it. Anyone else want to be free and travel the world? That is actually something my wife and I are planning on doing, is traveling quite a bit in the next couple of years.
Yeah, let me touch on that, because I think a lot of people think that they need to, like, sell their wife, sell their kids, sell everything to, like, go travel for 6 months. But the reality is like, guys, just please book a 9-day trip next year. Like, whether it's with me or on your own, like, just book the trip. So one of the things that we do at one of my events, so I have one event that's called the Investor Retreat. And we spend a lot more time, like, in the Airbnb than we do out doing a bunch of stuff. So if you're looking for more content and more, like, inner work, those are definitely the events to keep an eye out for. And at those events, I have everyone look at the next 12 months and first write down, what conferences are you going to and what vacations are you going to? Because you should fill out your calendar with those two things. And then everything else, then, like, oh, this person's getting married and this kid's doing this shit and we have to attend all this. But vacation should be a priority.
Agreed.
I love that. So my wife and I have been writing down goals at the end of the year. And last year, Brandon Turner did that goal setting summit. I don't know if you heard about that, right? Where he actually was doing this big thing with the charity event and everything. But that was powerful. We've been doing it for years. So the cool thing is, if you actually look at your goals, if you can find them or whatever, that is an area of weakness for me. But the cool thing is, I've written down goals for years and then we reverse engineer, right? Well, I don't ever look at them throughout the year like I should. But every time I find my goals that I've written down, or I'm looking at my dream board, I'm like, wow, I've accomplished that. Almost like most of the stuff that we've written down, we have accomplished. You know what I mean? It's something powerful in writing it down. And like you said, putting it on the calendar. I love that. It brings things to fruition. You know?
And I think some people aren't naturally a visionary. And if you are that person, like, do not be embarrassed. That is totally okay. Like, some people have a hard time writing down their goals even, or, like, dreaming big enough. And so what I like to ask myself is, if I was living to my absolute full potential, what would that look like? So if I was living to my full potential, what would that look like? And that really helps me put together a bulleted list.
That is awesome. All right, let's take a few questions and we'll wrap it up here shortly. Patrick, go ahead, buddy.
Hey guys, Sarah, thanks for being here and all the information.
Absolutely.
Just want to say that I have traveled nurse for a couple of years now, and midterm rentals have been like my jam. And so I'm looking forward to getting one myself. I did just close on my first property. I went the conventional route, so I wasn't too familiar with creative finance at the time. But eventually down the line, hoping to turn that into a midterm rental for travel nurses like myself and others. question I had was, when you go on these trips, are you able to do these as like tax write-offs too, since you do go with real estate investors and talk about real estate and whatnot?
Yes. So everything, your flight, the trip itself, so what you pay me to go on the trip, and even your gear that you buy for Kilimanjaro. So yes, my trips to REI were even a tax write-off. Cruises, there's kind of an asterisk. So if you're wanting to come to Antarctica, yes, I know about the cruise exclusion, so we can talk about that. But everything else, yes, it is completely a write-off. And so talk to your tax strategist. If you don't have a tax strategist, find one. And you should be asking them. You should be asking them ideally a couple weeks ago, but definitely before Christmas. Do I need some expenses? Like, how am I looking for 2023? Do I need some expenses? And then if you need to spend some money, I hope you spend it with me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Question for you. Because I see both you and William have an alligator. What's the alligator?
Oh, it's the Gator method through Pace Morby.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
I joined about last month, so still finding my footing there, but yeah.
Cool. I like it.
Awesome. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you.
And that's Sarah, that's all about lending money, EMD and
Transactional lending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool business model. It's fun. Let's see. Marzio, is that right? Marzio.
Yes. Hey, good afternoon.
Hey.
Well, I want to thank you for putting this together. It's been, I always have something going on and I miss your Zooms. And my question
Absolutely.
was, well, putting down on the calendar for traveling is definitely something that I'm going to switch to because the trip is always the last one that gets on my calendar. And I know that one of the trips we had with my family, we spent 7 weeks in Thailand, and it was the best time of our life.
Amazing.
The family bonded together much better. We came back as a new family. But my question was, why not traveling? When I put Tuscany because I've been looking at properties there. But I live here. I've been here for 35 years. I have no credit. And I've been looking at properties there because I'm looking at the long-term investments. You probably purchase some properties and use them for short-term rental, midterm rental. Is that something that you would be looking for maybe as you travel around, buy your own properties and take people there?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, anyone in the chat, does anyone own anything in another country? I'd love to know that. So I absolutely look at real estate everywhere I go. One that helps make the trip a tax write-off. But also I'm so curious. I'm so curious about what are the other like mortgage laws in places? Where can I buy real estate to get residency? How can I live in the EU? So I'm always looking at real estate. And I'm not the best person to answer this. Let me first say that. But here's my experience. So my experience is that the ability to cash flow is right here in the Midwest. Like I haven't found very many places that I can cash flow like this good. And for me at the beginning, I needed the cash flow so that I could quit my job. And I know that a lot of you guys would like to quit your job. So I needed the cash flow. So then I got to a place where now I could comfortably buy something that doesn't cash flow as much. Hey, Jess. And I would love to buy something in a place that I want to visit. The issue is that you likely have to have all cash. Not everywhere. There are some countries abroad that would allow you to have a mortgage, but as an American citizen, it's just a bigger challenge. And so then it kills your cash on cash return. And so for me, it would be more of a lifestyle investment than it would like a financial investment, even though I still believe in the power of real estate. So for example, we went to Puglia in the south of Italy. And that was the first time that we looked at property abroad on one of my trips. And these things cash flow, like they do cash flow. And you're spending all cash. And so it really depends on where you're at in your life. Unfortunately, the properties that we were looking at weren't expensive enough that you get residency. And so for me, I'm just being patient. I am going to wait until I have enough cash that I should say when I can justify spending the cash on something that gives me residency, because I really would love residency for Europe. But in the meantime, I'm looking in Mexico. I think that there's so many good investment opportunities there. But for a lot of you guys, like, just choose somewhere that you really love. For me, I'm at a place in my life where I don't visit places again very often. But as you mentioned, your family, like if you have kids, it might make sense to travel back to the same place, and it might as well be an investment property. So I think that it's really a good idea. So
Portugal is a good place for residency if you're looking at it.
exactly. So that's exactly what I'm looking at. So that's kind of my avenue that I likely will go, is I'll buy somewhere in Portugal, and I need enough cash. I need to justify to have enough cash. So that's why I'm actively lending, because I want to feel that amount of money come out of my bank account and see how that feels. And right now, so I'm doing that. I just invested or lent my biggest amount of money, which was 230,000. And it feels pretty good making 11%. So it'd be hard to invest something like 300,000 in a property in Europe and not get that kind of return. But I have to quiet that part of myself, because at that point, it's not about the money. It's about, Sarah, look at all of these amazing things that you're getting to be able to do because you own a property in Europe. So I know there's a really long answer to your question, but
No, it's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. And
thank you so much.
Mi italiano è horrible adesso. I wish I could speak Italian to you.
Hey, Sarah, I'd love to talk to you about PML and getting you some better returns than in that amount of percentage that you mentioned.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Drake. All right. I'm glad I said it out loud. Thanks, guys.
That's Juan. Juan, where are you? I don't see you.
Yeah, no, Drake said in the chat, 11 only.
Oh, I know. That's what we do as
hear the
Gators. I know
judgment.
we're getting our PMLs 20 to 30% returns on some deals. So it's crazy.
You guys have my number.
Yeah. Do we? Is it in the chat? No. That's awesome. My wife wanted to hop in real quick and say hi. I told her, I was like, get on here and say hi.
Yeah. Oh.
All right.
Questions, you guys. Oh, look, my family owns a house 3 hours north of Puerto Vallarta, close to San Blas. The land is 99-year lease, but the house is owned. That's really cool.
Oh, wow.
It's a really safe area if you're looking in Mexico. It's like a farming state, and there's not a lot of developments. Very quiet. Not as touristy as Puerto Vallarta is. It's nice.
I went to what was it called? Not the place that everyone else goes, Sayulita, San Pancho. Have you stopped there on the way? I mean, obviously San Blas, you must be a lot more north, but
yeah, well, it's about I guess it's about an hour and a half north of what was the one you just mentioned? Sayulita. Yeah, Sayulita. I've been to Sayulita. I haven't stopped at the other one.
San Pancho is amazing, especially just stop for dinner even.
Yeah.
Like, I like San Pancho way more than Sayulita. Like,
Gotcha. Yeah, it's
if someone's looking for a solo vacation, you're like, I need a break from my life and my people, go to this hotel in San Pancho. You'll have like the best 4 days, really good restart, super easy to fly there from the US. Just DM me on Instagram. I'll send you the details.
Okay. Honey, Jesse, did you want to come and say hi real quick before we end this? Because you're going to be out of luck, SOL, here in about 2 minutes.
I'm here.
Hey.
I'm doing dishes. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
That's rare.
Good to see you.
I'm doing your chores, sir.
Oh, Lance is talking shit.
I do the dishes around. No.
Yeah. Anyways, I won't go there. We're so happy that you were on tonight, and I was able to get pieces from listening at the door since I couldn't army crawl under the line of sight. But I just love that you're on your journey. I loved hearing about it. Lance kind of filled me in for the parts that I missed. And just wanted to thank you again for all the value that you have added tonight to our viewers, and all the fun things that you're doing. You're just such a wealth of knowledge.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it. And I think that a lot of it comes from you guys. This is like all I do. I attended every mastermind, like 2019, 2020. I was sitting in every call. And so like kudos to you guys. You're doing the right thing. The one thing that I would tell you is make it your mission to talk to someone new every week. So if there's someone in the chat where you're like, I really like what he says, like he's quite clever, or sounds like she's really got her shit together, make sure you follow up with them and say, hey, would you want to do a 20-minute call, 15-minute call, no strings attached, just would love to learn more about you. That was my mission, is I talked to someone new every week, and it was game changer.
Awesome. Great advice. And that's basically what Pace has been telling everybody. Three to five a week or something like that. I can't remember because I don't get on the Zooms as much anymore, but we're super busy. But
I have no personal life, so I was doing like way more than that. But I would love for you guys to like somehow figure out to have a personal life and do this.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're overachievers, so that's okay. I mean, you know. But yeah, hey, thank you, Sarah, so much. I think we're gonna cut everyone loose here. Appreciate everybody. Sarah, thank you so much for hopping on. We value your time, and you've been an amazing guest. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you guys. Bye.
All right, see you guys.
Sarah,